That teacher union contract in Providence, it's resolved.
The Dan York State of Mind program is brought to you in part by Lookout Rhode Island and Taco Comfort Solutions.
You know, there's so much that's gone by in the last few weeks that you might think, oh, this is really old news. But Mary Beth Calabro, the head of the Providence Teachers Union, had the unmitigated gall this summer to take a vacation and that kind of thing. And can you imagine summertime that people actually take a break? Well deserved, no doubt. We're going to talk to Mary Beth about her side. We got the governor's thoughts on the teacher union contract a couple of weeks ago. There's really no side to discuss in terms of contentiousness at this point. Although, look, you know, the whole deal and mission statement of the schools in Providence is not locked in to a teacher contract. There's a spirit to core that's got to exist, and I want to talk to Mary Beth about that this evening. So welcome aboard. Thank you for tuning in to this weekend's Dan York State of Mind. You know, Haiti has an earthquake, and that's just absolutely awful. We've got the variant. We're going to talk about that creeping up on us. And then Afghanistan, right? The president has a headline here, and it is hard for people to digest that he says the following.
But the idea that somehow there's a way to have gotten out without chaos ensuing, I don't know how that happens.
There probably wasn't a way for us to get out without a messy, but this is incredibly messy. And look, at the end of the day, the preponderance of people in this country want to see us get out of Afghanistan. If we do it without an American life lost, that will be the total, inventory, I think, that people will rely on over time. But we'll never be able to escape, and the president will probably not be able to escape, the images at the airport. What happens with the Taliban? Don't kid yourself. I mean, this has been a trend now. The Trump administration, too, wanted us out. Everybody wanted us out. The idea here is on execution. And could it have been done better? It seems to me that the evidence serves as at least a legitimate criticism to suggest that it could have been done better. Time will tell here on how this evacuation works out. And the bigger question is going to be whether or not Afghanistan remains a place that we have to monitor for terrorist buildup, or whether the Taliban finds a way to settle in to some level of moderation. Rights for women are at the top here, and I will tell you that at least early indications are it ain't good. There are just so many things we can resolve and solve here in America. We shall see. Keep your thoughts and prayers with the people of Afghanistan. In the meantime, let's come home. The governor has been under a lot of pressure to issue a mask mandate for the school system. The headline here talks about it. There's a conceptual problem that people have seemed to miss. And it's interesting that we're taping this show at 1 o'clock on Thursday afternoon. The governor's COVID briefing is scheduled for 2. So you've seen all that news because you're watching this on Fox on Friday night and Sunday night on Channel 12. The governor likely will talk about the need for the General Assembly to step in and reaffirm or extend his executive authority so he can make these kinds of mandate decisions if necessary. There is considerable pressure from the health department right now on the governor regarding the Delta variant. They are wholly concerned that this thing is going to unravel at least over the next 4 to 6 weeks, where it could top out, and that impacts the schools. The governor is trying to thread a needle to keep his eye on the hospitalization and death rate, God forbid, and to keep this economy open. So that's where this whole thing goes. Know that although everybody in the world, Tom, Dick, and Harry, including opposition candidates for governor, Gorbea and Magaziner, are screaming for him to, bang, bang, make a mandate. He can't. He doesn't have the authority. The health department has an emergency declaration they could reissue. Do you want to call an emergency when you've got less than 100 people in the hospital? And 80% of this adult population has at least one shot? That's a tough call. In the meantime, the State Board of Education flexed its muscles this week, I think, in a wholly irresponsible way, and mandated for the school systems to use the masks or they'd be cut funding, and their back-to-school plans wouldn't be accepted. Now, I understand the sentiment, but don't think that it wasn't political. You've got Magaziner and Gorbea yelling for that very same thing, and they should know better, that if they were governor, they couldn't either. The school board decided that they were going to take a catch-all part of the statute that says, and anything else that you may want to do, you think it's your authority, you should do. They don't have the authority to do this either. Yet they are rowing in the same direction the governor is, because he's just trying to convince one district to the next to mandate the masks, including the Providence school system. We'll talk to Mary Beth about that in a second, that is actually under his jurisdiction. Are you following all this? Here was the latest on it.
Directed me to do that, even though I don't really have the authority. And basically what was said tonight is that we'll take our chances with any lawsuits that may happen.
So you will follow their direction?
They're my bosses. Yes, I have to follow the council's direction.
That audio played where it was supposed to. Eric's on his game. I wasn't. That's the commissioner who, after this meeting of the board, she was like, wait a second, you want me to do something that really we don't have the authority to do? The lawyer says we don't have the authority to do, and they could sue us, and you want me to do that anyway? She acquiesced because she had to. It was just a mess, kind of a frittata. But here's where we stand as of Thursday afternoon, with the schools falling in line, including Johnston, which was the only outlier.
The K-12 Council's vote to reject mask optional plans is adding pressure to schools. For districts who haven't made a decision.
So with that in mind, our school committee meeting tomorrow night, I will be supporting a mask mandate.
But for districts who opted to make mask wearing optional, it's upsetting.
Opinions are like noses, we all have one. They're overstepping their bounds.
Last week, the Johnston School Committee voted unanimously to let parents decide whether their kids wear a mask in school. The committee is now holding an emergency meeting Monday night following the K-12 Council's decision.
So they're going to reverse their decision, and it's basically based on the orders that are coming from the elementary and secondary people.
Late last night, Governor Dan McKee's office sent a statement saying, in part, quote, while all options remain at the governor's disposal, our team will continue to reach out to the remaining districts, many of which are taking up this issue over the next week. I did reach out to McKee's office today, but they said there are no new updates.
The kids were great about it.
Warwick students tell me anything they can do to remain in the classroom is worth it.
I like it almost because it feels a lot safer.
I don't mind it just because I'm used to it at this point.
Parents have differing opinions on the Education Council's decision to possibly reject school districts' decisions.
I think it's just this erring on the side of caution. I think it's being safe.
I feel like the parent should have the choice. It's tough to be told what you can and cannot do, especially for your child.
Yeah, COVID's tough. Mary Beth Calabro is the Providence Teacher Union president. I want to go back at the end of the show to talk about some of the systemic issues, the Mass Teachers Union move on this as well. By the way, welcome.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
How dare you take a vacation, by the way.
I felt guilty if it makes anybody feel better. I felt guilty.
What, for that 30 seconds? Yeah, that's about it. Give me your quick take on this. I'm sure you are relieved that there's going to be a mask mandate in the Providence district, correct?
I am. I think that unfortunately this is being made a political football, right? And this is about health and safety. And so while the Delta variant is raging through the lower part of the country and easing its way up, I think that we don't know enough, just like we didn't know enough when the original COVID-19 came out, that we don't know enough about transmission and carriers and breakthroughs and things like that to say absolutely not, I'm wearing a mask and things like that. We have, all of our littles under the age of 12 are unvaccinated. They're still in homes with people who may or may not be vaccinated. We have noticed and it has been noted in the news that there are folks who were vaccinated and got the Delta variant. So I think it's, yes, it is erring on the side of caution. Right. I think so.
All right, we'll come back to that. The bulk of the conversation here this evening is regarding the Providence Teacher Union contract, and we'll talk about that success when we come back to this.
I want to thank everyone who participated in that effort. and look forward to working with the teachers along with the administrators, parents, students, community leaders to move Providence in that spot where it becomes a school of choice for the families that live in the city of Providence.
That was Governor McKee days after the Providence Teacher Union deal was ratified. You know, I think it is appropriate to say congratulations, you got a deal.
Thank you.
It is. Look, this thing was a tough slog. Mm-hmm. The commissioner came out of the negotiations. I think it's no secret that you and the commissioner have had more muddy than clear water but you know, she still had a significant role in looking at the terms. The governor's approach, along with Tony Alfonso, his deputy chief of staff, I think, you know, getting in there and just rolling up sleeves and getting after it with you guys seemed to be the constructive result. You agree?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. That was definitely the catalyst to change the trajectory.
You know, there are those that look at this thing and say any deal was a giveaway. Well, and I think some folks might have paid 10 seconds worth of attention to Jorge Elorza, the mayor of Providence, who was suggesting that this needed to be, you know, a complete, what's the term that he was using the entire time?
Transformative?
Transformative, thank you. The transformative contract, but he never explained what transformative was going to be.
Because he doesn't know.
He did, yeah, correct. I mean, that was clear, because he could never explain what it is, other than ripping up the length of the contract. And I do think there's too much language in all these teacher contracts, but, you know, in the triage that was necessary to get this whole thing done, especially after COVID, the governor had a perspective that it was time to get to work and let the teachers prove that they're partners. Isn't that true?
Absolutely, absolutely. And we, you know, we tried to do that throughout negotiations. And now, you know, we're thrilled that we have a contract, but there are things that we wanted in the contract that we didn't get either.
Like?
So we wanted a multi-language learner, dual language learner task force with parents, students, and teachers to review curriculum and make recommendations and voice concerns. That was one of our big asks.
Well, see, this is where you and I have had our friendly debate. I don't see why that objective isn't worthy. I just don't know why you have to put it in a teacher contract.
Right, and so
and that's the point.
Going forward, our mission will be to whatever we were asking for that we didn't get put into the contract, we will do regardless of it being in the contract.
Cooperative discussions.
Correct.
I mean, I think the general public is salivating over evidence that teachers and management, meaning, you know, school boards and whoever in any district, will come to solutions that are aside from negotiations.
Correct.
That they see in their normal workplace.
Yep.
And so I hope that if that is a worthy thing, and we should spend another show talking about it, that you get it. But let's talk about what you did get.
Yep.
You got some modest increases. I thought the governor's decision to offer a $3,000 bonus from the COVID money was an appropriate thank you for the kind of blood, sweat, and tears that the teachers exercised over the course of the last year.
And it was greatly appreciated. And that's how our teachers took it, as a thank you for the work that they had done.
Well, what you did have in this deal is that there's more, at least, written accountability to the principals. There's more meeting time, and there's more professional development time mandatory.
Correct.
Well, listen, if you love your job, you love your industry, and you understand that there is a report-up system in America.
Correct.
I don't know why those things were so difficult to get, and I'm guessing at the end of the day, they weren't.
They weren't. No. They weren't.
Transformative, I don't know. It seems to me that transformation will occur outside this contract, where the teachers and the governor, you know, and the ed commissioner, who are still running this thing, are going to have to come to a place where you all agree on a path for improvement.
Exactly. And I think that when certain people, whoever they may be, talk about transformative and they don't know what that means for themselves, let alone to explain to the public, I think that they're missing real opportunities to discuss the things in our contract that are transformative. So we have a peer assistance and review program that was removed by the previous administration, Superintendent Peters. That peer assistance and review program takes teachers who have received an ineffective or developing on their evaluation, and then provides a year's worth of coaching, check-ins, observations, model lessons, etc. And then a recommendation is made to Human Resources whether or not to negatively or positively release them from the peer assistance and review program. We got that back, but we're one of the only districts in the state that have a peer assistance and review program. We also had an induction program that they got rid of that was tantamount to keeping so many of our first, second, and third year teachers, especially our teachers of color, because they had mentors that helped them navigate the system, helped them learn the ins and outs of evaluation, helped them learn the ins and outs of the curriculum, the new curricula, and where to go and who to speak to when they need to. So those two things were transformative and are transformative. We also have one of the most progressive transfer and hiring policies in the state. We have an interview process. There's a team of folks that are interviewed. There's a paper screening of interviews. So there were and are transformative conditions in our contract.
At the end of the day, let's not forget what the Hopkins report said.
Mm-hmm.
The buildings are in terrible shape.
They are.
The capitalization to improve that is missing. The morale was horrendous because at the time you guys were entering the end of a contract and it was getting kind of contentious.
Mm-hmm.
Those things are now part of what needs to be addressed.
Yeah.
The state, the McKee administration, are going to have to find ways to continue to invest in capital improvements. The public will determine whether or not the McKee administration and or the teachers union or both, repetitive, are going to make this thing happen.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have in your gut a metric in mind that you're aspiring to as an educator and as a teacher union leader? They will say, if we get to this point, it will be evidence that this Titanic is being turned around in the ocean.
Yeah.
What is it?
So I think that the metric is the collaborative piece and having true engagement of all stakeholders, our parents, our students, and our teachers, to have conversations about curriculum, about redesigning curriculum, about whether or not a curriculum is working or not working. I also think that not only did that $3,000, that was helpful, but I think by appointing Dr. Montañez as the interim superintendent, that went a long way with teachers to build.
You guys like him?
I think he's a phenomenal leader. I think it's remarkable.
Sometimes we decide that we got to go shopping outside to find somebody to be able to run a system. Early indications are that this guy's equity in the system and his institutional knowledge, in addition to his disposition, and we need to bring him in here to talk more about what's going on, might be the cat's meow here, right?
He has a culture and climate in his elementary school that is beyond anything that most people have seen. Students, parents, teachers, it's a collaborative effort. He truly loves his school, his students, and his staff. And we met yesterday to talk about the reopening of schools, before things happened, and so that was different than the past.
So your answer is an interesting one on the metric, but you didn't give me a number, like on competency or kids' academic performance. I know it's hard right now coming off of COVID because nobody knows where the heck we are, correct?
Right, and so we did end up taking RICAS, the state assessment, at the end of last year, which may be a piece of a measure. I don't think it would be the end-all and be-all. I think that we were on a trajectory to improve student achievement, and so with the bump of COVID and the introduction of new curriculum products, I think that you'll see some kind of differential, probably backwards, considering the time that's spent out of school and online. But I think that now that we're back in and teachers don't have not having a contract looming over their head, the constant back and forth between us and administration being, you know, RIDE.
Right.
I think that we're all oars are rowing in the right direction.
Well, here's the thing. People need to understand this. It is the situation here is that the contract is retroactive 1 year. So only soon at the end of 22 you'll start to talk about the next deal anyway.
Yes.
So
yep, we will.
You know, gubernatorial election will be done. McKee may or may not be there. It's a time for reset. Quick Delta situation when we come back. Stay with us. So the Mass Teachers Union has voted for mandatory vaccines. What's the Rhode Island take and the Providence take on? I only have a minute. The mandatory vaccines.
We're not at that juncture right now to have those discussions. It was a hard enough lift to try to get mandatory masking.
But the president of your teachers union, you know, on Meet the Press 2 weeks ago, he said, "Listen, my personal opinion is that we should."
My personal opinion is that we should, but you know, I have a constituency that about 35.
Well, you take a deep breath over this. You still, I mean, your union reflects the general public's pulse and contentiousness over this. Yeah. Do you project that that's not an easy?
It's not.
Conversation?
It won't be an easy conversation. You know, I took the vaccine the minute I could get it. My son at 14 years old took the vaccine the minute he could get it.
It's 90%, by the way. 90% vaccination in the teacher category.
In our category. So I think it's important. I think regardless of, people take the flu shot, and there are other various strains of the flu. So you could get the flu, it's just not as bad as it would have been if you didn't get the flu shot. Right. It's the same thing with this vaccine as far as I'm concerned. And you know, people who talk about, you know, it's not FDA approved. Well, your makeup isn't, your shampoo isn't, and the vitamins you take are not FDA approved either.
Well, this for you. Fauci Jr. over here. Good luck on the school year.
Thanks, I'm looking forward to it.
Stay safe.
Starting fresh.
Final word when we come back. Listen, it is not easy to lead in COVID. Just think about this, though. At least we live in a region and in a states where more or less government and the rank and file are on the same page. We're not in Florida or Texas. That's chaos. Talk to you next week. Take care.